Hello, I'm Willie from the Ozarks, and I'm so thankful that you've joined me on this April the 6th lesson 96 from the original edition. Salvation comes from my one self. Salvation comes from my one self. Its thoughts are mine to use. Let's look into this. Its thoughts are mine to use. Salvation comes from my one self. Although you are one self, you experience yourself as two, as both good and evil, loving and hating, mind and body. This sense of being split into opposites induces feelings of acute and constant conflict and leads to frantic attempts to reconcile the contradictory aspects of this self-perception. You have sought many such solutions, and none of them has worked. The opposites you see in you will never be compatible, but one exists. So he's kind of letting us see that a lot of our loss of peace is a result of the perceptions that we're holding. Ultimately, that's the only thing that loses our peace, is our perceptions that we're holding. But he says that there is one perception you can hold that will work, but one exists. Paragraph 2, the fact that truth and illusions cannot be reconciled, and no matter how you try, what means you use, and where you see the problem, must be accepted if you would be saved. Until you have accepted this, you will attempt endless lists of goals you cannot reach, a senseless series of expenditures of time and effort, hopefulness and doubt, each one as futile as the one before, and failing as the next one surely will. Okay, so failing as the next one surely will. Problems that have no meaning cannot be resolved within the framework they are set. Two selves in conflict could not be resolved, and good and evil have no meeting place. The self you made can never be yourself, nor can your self be split into and still be what it is and must forever be. Okay, so he's talking about the two different selves. The self, the little self, the ego self that we made, can never be your true self, the self that is sought in what Paramahansa Yogananda used to call self-realization. So that self is the self you made, the ego self, can never be the immortal self, nor can your immortal self be split in two and still be what it is and must forever be. A mind and body cannot both exist. Make no attempt to reconcile the two, for one denies the other can be real. If you are physical, your mind is gone from your self-concept, for it has no place in which it could be really part of you. If you are spirit, then the body must be meaningless to your reality. Spirit makes use of mind as means to find its self-expression. Okay, so spirit makes use of mind as means to find its self-expression. And the mind which serves the spirit is at peace and filled with joy. Its power comes from spirit, and it is fulfilling happily its function here. Yet mind can also see itself divorced from spirit and perceive itself within a body it confuses with itself. Without its function, then, it has no peace, and happiness is alien to its thoughts. We've all been there, haven't we? But we're learning more and more to be aware when we're not filled with joy, and stop and ask for help. Resign as our own teacher and ask the teacher who knows what we need to teach us. Paragraph 6. Yet mind apart from spirit, let's see. That last sentence again on the last paragraph first. Without its function, then, it has no peace, and happiness is alien to its thoughts. Yet mind apart from spirit cannot think. It has denied its source of strength and sees itself as helpless, limited, and weak. Dissociated from its function now, it thinks it is alone and separate, attacked by armies massed against itself, and hiding in the body's frail support. Now must it reconcile unlike with like, for this is what it thinks that it is for. Waste no more time on this. Waste no more time on this. Who can resolve the senseless conflicts which a dream presents? Who can resolve the senseless conflicts which a dream presents? So don't get caught up in trying to analyze the dream. What could the resolution mean in truth? What purpose could it serve? What is it for? Salvation cannot make illusions real and solve a problem that does not exist. Perhaps you hope it can, yet would you have God's plan for the release of His dear Son bring pain to Him and fail to set Him free? Let's read that sentence again. Would you have God's plan for the release of His dear Son bring pain to Him and fail to set Him free? Your self retains its thoughts, and they remain within your mind and in the mind of God. The Holy Spirit holds salvation in your mind and offers it the way to peace. Salvation is a thought you share with God, because His voice accepted it for you and answered in your name that it was done. Thus is salvation kept among the thoughts your self holds dear and cherishes for you. Wow, it's nice to have someone who speaks the truth for us in our own mind, even though we may not consciously be aware of what it speaks of. We can side with it more and more, and it'll become more and more available access. We'll be able to access it and understand it, and as we side more and more with the voice of truth within us. We will attempt today to find this thought whose presence in your mind is guaranteed by Him who speaks to you from your one self. Our hourly 5-minute practicing will be a search for Him within your mind. Salvation comes from this one self, through Him who is the bridge between your mind and it. Wait patiently and let Him speak to you about yourself and what your mind can do, restored to it and free to serve its will. Begin by saying this. So in your 5 minutes that you're going to take at the beginning of each hour, at least say the lesson. And if possible, take 5 minutes, close your eyes, and start by saying, salvation comes from my one self. Its thoughts are mine to use. And if you are busy doing other things, well, at least take a moment to at least say that to yourself. And take a minute, if at all possible, just to quietly wait and know what your thoughts are. Its thoughts are mine to use. And if you can, close your eyes and stay there for a minute, maybe 5 minutes if you can, for sure. That's what He's asking us to do. Instead of a longer practice period, He's just saying, take 5 minutes at the beginning of each hour and do that the best you can. Some hours you won't be able to, but don't let that be an excuse not to do the next hour or whenever you can. So salvation comes from my one self. Its thoughts are mine to use. Then seek its thoughts and claim them as your own. These are your own real thoughts you have denied, and let your mind go wandering in a world of dreams to find illusions in their place. Here are your thoughts, and only ones you have, the only ones you have. These are your own real thoughts you have denied, and let your mind go wandering in a world of dreams to find illusions in their place. Here are your thoughts, the only ones you have. Salvation is among them. Find it there. If you succeed, the thoughts that come to you will tell you you are saved and that your mind has found the function that it sought to lose. Yourself will welcome it and give it peace. Restored in strength, it will again flow out from spirit to the Spirit in all things created by the Spirit as itself. That's a nice idea. Yourself will welcome it and give it peace. Restored in strength, it will again flow out from Spirit to the Spirit in all things created by the Spirit as itself. Your mind will bless all things. Confusion done. You are restored, for you have found yourself. Yourself knows that you cannot fail today. Perhaps your mind remains uncertain yet a little while. Be not dismayed by this. The joy yourself experiences, it will save for you, and it will yet be yours in full awareness. Every time you spend 5 minutes of the hour seeking Him who joins your mind and self, you offer Him another treasure to be kept for you. You're offering God a treasure to be kept for you. And the last paragraph, each time today you tell your frantic mind salvation comes from your one self, you lay another treasure in your growing store, and all of it is given everyone who asks for it and will accept the gift. Think then how much is given unto you to give this day, that it be given you. All right, that last sentence, think then how much is given unto you to give this day, that it be given you. Remember, all that we give is given to ourselves, because we're one with everything. All right, let's go take a look in our text reading, and we'll read about, we'll get through half of this next section. I don't think we'll read the whole section. The Reward of Teaching, section 4. This is in chapter 16, the forgiveness of illusions. We'll start there at the beginning, paragraph 21. While you're turning there, let me tell you about a Seed Saver Exchange lettuce, and it's called the Capitan, probably Capitan, Capitan. This Dutch lettuce variety grows quite uniformly for an heirloom. Open pollinated variety, just one reason it earned top honors for Boston type lettuce in the 1983 Rodale Research Center trials. The loose light green heads weigh about 5 ounces, tolerate cold and heat extremely well, resists lettuce mosaic virus and white rot, and have a distinctive buttery flavor. Butterhead, and it's 62 day. They're calling it a Butterhead. So a Butterhead lettuce, Capitan, or makes me think of that big cliff in Yosemite, I think it is, the El Capitan. All right, Capitan lettuce. Now let's go back and read The Reward of Teaching. You have taught well, and yet you have not learned how to accept the comfort of your teaching. If you will consider what you have taught and how alien it is to what you thought you knew, you will be compelled to recognize that your teacher came from beyond your thought system and so could look upon it fairly and perceive it was untrue. Wow, there's a lot there. Let's read that again. You have taught well, and yet you have not learned how to accept the comfort of your teaching. If you will consider what you have taught and how alien it is to what you thought you knew, you will be compelled to recognize that your teacher came from beyond your thought system, and so could look upon it fairly and perceive it was untrue. And he must have done so from the basis of a very different thought system, and one with nothing in common with yours. For certainly what he has taught and what you have taught through him have nothing in common with what you taught before he came. And the results have been to bring peace where there was pain, and suffering has disappeared to be replaced by joy. Wow, I think he's kind of letting us see that even though we haven't finished A Course in Miracles, the contrast between the way we used to think and the way we're already thinking is enough to let us know that a thought system beyond our closed loop system in ourself has come to deliver us, to save us, to bring us joy. And we want to learn to listen more and more to that thought system. Paragraph 22, you have taught freedom, but you have not learned how to be free. We once said, by their fruits ye shall know them, and they shall know themselves. Or by their fruits ye shall know them was Jesus said 2,000 years ago. And then just a few years ago, he added in A Course in Miracles, by their fruits ye shall know them, and they shall know themselves. For it is certain that you judge yourself according to your teaching. The ego's teaching produces immediate results because its decisions are immediately accepted as your choice. And this acceptance means that you are willing to judge yourself accordingly. Cause and effect are very clear in the ego's thought system because all your learning has been directed toward establishing the relationship between them. And would you not have faith in what you have so diligently taught yourself to believe? Yet remember how much care you have exerted in choosing its witnesses and in avoiding those which spoke for the cause of truth and its effects. Does not the fact that you have not learned what you have taught show you that you do not perceive the sonship as one? Let's read that again. Does not the fact that you have not learned what you have taught show you that you do not perceive the sonship as one? And does it not also show you that you do not regard yourself as one? For it is impossible to teach successfully wholly without conviction, and it is equally impossible that conviction be outside of you. You could never have taught freedom unless you did believe in it, and it must be that what you taught came from yourself. And yet this self you clearly do not know and do not recognize it even though it functions. This self you clearly do not know and do not recognize it even though it functions. What functions must be there. And it is only if you deny what it has done that you could possibly deny its presence. 24. This is a course in how to know yourself. You have taught what you are, but have not let what you are teach you. This is a course on how to know yourself. Now we're learning more. It's a course on how to be at peace. He's also saying it's a course on how to know yourself. You have taught what you are, but have not let what you are teach you. You have been very careful to avoid the obvious and not to see the real cause and effect relationship that is perfectly apparent. Yet within you is everything you taught. What can it be that has not learned it? It must be this that is really outside yourself, not by your own projection, but in truth. And it is this that you have taken in that is not you. What you accept into your minds does not really change them. Illusions are beliefs in what is not there. And the seeming conflict between truth and illusion can only be resolved by separating yourself from the illusion and not from truth. I like when he says that what can it be that has not learned it? It must be that this is really outside yourself, not by your own projection, but in truth. And it is this that you have taken in that is not you. What you accept into your minds does not really change them. Okay, so it doesn't really change them. Now, it can change them in your beliefs, but that's only because you let illusion come, or an idol, as he calls it, to come to shade or to change what's real. But he's saying that what you accept into your mind can't really change it, because you're changeless. You're created in the image of God. Now, and we want to learn to find that part of our mind. That's what our lesson today is about. Matter of fact, that's probably a good stopping place. And we'll go back to our lesson and look at it. Let me put down tomorrow. We'll pick up on paragraph 25. And let's go take a look again. Remember, what you let into your mind doesn't really change it. Let's at least finish that one before we go on. What can it be that has not learned it? It must be this that is really outside yourself, not by your own projection, but in truth. And it is this that you have taken in that is not you. What you accept into your minds does not really change them. That really, you got to really emphasize. Matter of fact, he italicized that word. Illusions are but beliefs in what is not there. Now, you can have a belief, and that can change your mind from but not in reality, but only an illusion. And the seeming conflict between truth and illusion can only be resolved by separating yourself from the illusion and not from truth. So our lesson today, this just works so well with our lesson. Our lesson today being, let me turn to it so I get it right. Salvation comes from my one self. Its thoughts are mine to use. Be sure to write it down so you don't have to have the cumbersome activity of looking it up on your phone or opening your book. Write down your lessons so that when that 5 minutes dings, if you're using your clock, or if you're in a school setting and your clock rings every hour for changing classes, it's some sort of an indicator in your environment that helps you remember. Be able to quickly pull out your card or bring it to your memory. Salvation comes from my one self. Its thoughts are mine to use. So we want to learn to identify with the Holy Spirit within us, the voice for truth, the voice for God, the voice for love, the interconnecting voice, the one that speaks from yesterday. Salvation comes from my one self. So we want to get in touch with that one self. Salvation comes from my one self. Its thoughts are mine to use.